I didn't expect to find my daughter on the kitchen floor. Knees red and raw, scrubbing tiles like she owed the world something. Not when just 3 days earlier I left her in the care of her grandparents. People who claimed they wanted to bond with her. Not when I packed her favorite bedtime book, kissed her cheek, and whispered, "Be good. I'll be back before you know it." And definitely not when I heard her whisper, "I'm sorry, Mommy. I spilled juice. Grandma said I have to clean the whole floor or I won't get dessert." That was the moment something inside me snapped. My name is Natalie Carter. I'm a mom, a marketing director, and, until that moment, a firm believer in giving people the benefit of the doubt. But what I discovered when I came home early changed everything. Because while I was in Austin signing a 6-figure client deal, my daughter Chloe was here. Alone. On her hands and knees. While her grandparents took their real granddaughter to Disneyland. And that was just the beginning. Over the next 24 hours, I uncovered everything they'd said and done while we were gone. How Chloe had been made to eat separately. How she was called lucky to even have a family. And worst of all, how she was told, again and again, that she didn't have the right blood. So I did what any mother would do. I wiped away her tears. I took her out for ice cream. And then, I made a promise. No one would ever make my daughter feel small again. Before I walked into my kitchen and found Chloe on the floor, scrubbing tiles like she'd done something unforgivable. Our life seemed fine. I became a mother at 25. Not by birth, but by choice. After my cousin died in a tragic apartment fire. Her daughter, Chloe, was left with no one. No father, no grandparents, no one else willing to step up. I didn't have a house. I didn't have savings. But I had love. And I knew I couldn't let her go into the system. The first night she stayed with me. She sat on the couch clutching a stuffed bunny and asked, "Do I have to call you Mom now?" I said, "Only when it feels right to you." From that night on, she slowly became my entire world. We built our own little family. Birthday pancakes. Bedtime stories. 1,000 inside jokes. Then, 5 years later, I met Derek Patterson. A calm, steady presence. A man who didn't flinch when I told him I came with a child. He didn't just accept Chloe, he adored her. The night he proposed, he knelt with 2 things in hand. A ring for me, and a silver bracelet for Chloe. "Will you both make me the luckiest man in the world?" he asked. After we married, Derek adopted Chloe legally. On paper and in our hearts, we were a full family. And that's when I met his parents. Hank and Margaret Patterson. At first, they smiled politely. They brought Chloe glittery sticker books and puzzles. But their hugs were stiff. Their eyes distant. "She's cute," Margaret once said, examining Chloe. "But she doesn't really look like any of us, does she?" They always talked about Ava, their biological granddaughter, Derek's brother's child, as if she were royalty. Every story, every comparison, somehow circled back to Ava. I forced a laugh. Maybe they needed time. But then, I started noticing the patterns. Family photos with Chloe cropped out. Holiday gifts, one big and expensive for Ava. Derek's niece, his older brother's daughter, the first grandchild. And one small and generic for Chloe. At Ava's birthday, Chloe got a coloring book. Ava opened an iPad. I saw the flicker in Chloe's eyes. That quiet disappointment she tried to hide. But she still smiled and said, "I like mine. It has sparkles." My heart cracked wide open. By the time spring rolled around, I had been putting off a major conference in Austin for weeks. My company was courting a new ecotech client. And my boss made it clear. "If you want to stay in the lead, Natalie, you need to be there in person." Derek reassured me. "I've got Chloe. Homework, lunchboxes, bedtime, easy," he smiled. She and I will build that birdhouse we keep talking about. Chloe seemed excited, too. A weekend with just her and her dad? That sounded like magic. But 2 days before my flight, everything flipped. Derek got a call from his office, emergency in Seattle. A high-stakes project was falling apart. And he was the only one who could fix it. We scrambled. Our babysitter was out of town. My mom was recovering from knee surgery in Arizona. None of our friends were available. Then Derek suggested it. What about my parents? They'd been asking to spend more time with Chloe. I hesitated. Images flashed through my head, Ava getting all the attention. Margaret pretending not to hear Chloe's stories. I don't know. Derek. They're not perfect, he admitted. But they're family. And maybe this is what they need, real time with just her. Maybe it'll help. Maybe. I wanted to believe that. So the morning of my flight, Hank and Margaret arrived with overnight bags. Margaret barely looked up from her phone when I opened the door. We raised 2 boys, she said. 1 girl? Piece of cake. I knelt beside Chloe. Sweetheart, be good for Grandma and Grandpa, okay? I'll call you every night. Chloe nodded, her voice soft. I'll help with dishes and laundry and be really neat. You don't need to do chores, I whispered, pulling her into a hug. Just be a kid. I love you more than all the stars in the sky. To the moon and back, she whispered back. Our usual goodbye. The first night, Chloe was quiet on the video call. But said she'd eaten spaghetti and watched a movie. She made me pick up my toys 3 times, Chloe shrugged. She said I was messy. That didn't sound like Chloe. She was usually tidy, almost overly so. Still, I brushed it off. Different house. Different rules, I said gently. 2 more days, and we'll be back to normal. But the second night, there was no call. I FaceTimed at our usual hour. No answer. When I called again, Hank picked up. She's finishing dinner. We'll have her call back. But that call never came. Later that night, Margaret answered, sounding irritated. She's asleep already. Too tired from playing. I couldn't explain it. But a strange, hollow unease began to settle in my chest. And then, the next morning, our client signed early. My work in Austin was done. I booked the first flight home. And I didn't tell anyone. I landed in LA just after noon. The moment my feet hit the ground, I texted Derek. Surprise. Headed home early. He replied almost instantly. That's great. Still stuck in Seattle. Love you both. I smiled, but the unease was still there. On the drive home, I imagined Chloe's face lighting up when I walked through the door. I imagined her squeal, the running hug. The way she always jumped into my arms like I was the best surprise in the universe. But when I pulled into the driveway, Hank and Margaret's car was gone. That was odd. It was Thursday. Where would they have taken Chloe? I tried calling. No answer. Maybe they went to the park. Maybe a movie? Still, something felt wrong. I stepped inside. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Chloe? I called out. No response. I dropped my bag and started moving room to room. The living room was empty. A glass of water and a plate with crumbs still sat on the dining table. On the floor was Mr. Bun, Chloe's favorite stuffed rabbit. She never left him behind. Chloe? I called again, louder now, my voice catching. Then I heard it. A faint sniffle. A soft scraping sound. Coming from the kitchen. I rushed in. And froze. There, on her hands and knees, was my daughter. Scrubbing the kitchen floor. Her hair was damp with sweat. Her knees were red and raw. Her small hands clutched a bristle brush, scrubbing hard at a tile like her life depended on it. "Chloe?" I whispered. She gasped and dropped the brush. Turned around. And for a split second, I didn't recognize the expression on her face. Fear. Not of me, but of being caught doing something wrong. "Mommy," she said, her voice cracking. I rushed to her, kneeling on the wet floor. "Baby. What are you doing? Where are Grandma and Grandpa?" She looked down. "I spilled grape juice this morning," she whispered. "Grandma said if I don't clean the whole kitchen before they get back, I won't get dessert. And I need to learn responsibility." My breath caught. "Where did they go?" "They took Ava to Disneyland." I sat back, stunned. "They left you here alone?" She nodded. "Grandma said she told the neighbors we had a day nanny. That everything was taken care of, so no one would worry or drop by." My stomach dropped. "And she said Ava deserves special treats, because she's their real granddaughter." Those words, real granddaughter, cut through me like glass. "How long have you been alone?" Chloe looked toward the clock. "Since breakfast? Grandma said they'd be back for dinner. She said I'd better have the floor spotless. Or I should think about why I'm always so clumsy." She said it like it made sense. Like it was her fault. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just favoritism. This was emotional abuse. I pulled her into my arms. Her small body stiff at first, then slowly melting into me. "It's okay," I whispered. "You're safe now." She clung to me like she didn't quite believe it yet. And maybe, after the past few days, she didn't. Her hands were red. Her favorite pajamas looked loose on her. She looked smaller. Like someone trying not to take up space. I helped her to her feet, gently wiping her cheeks with a dish towel. "We're done cleaning," I said softly. "Let's get you changed, and then we're going for ice cream." She blinked up at me. "Even though I didn't finish the floor?" I nearly broke. "Yes, baby. Especially because of that." Upstairs, I ran her a warm bath. As she soaked in bubbles and giggled at the shampoo mohawk I made for her, I tried to push away the guilt clawing at me. How had I missed this? How long had it been this bad? After the bath, I helped her into pajamas, even though it was only mid-afternoon. She needed comfort now, not structure. Over rainbow sherbet at her favorite ice cream shop. I finally asked the question I was dreading. "Chloe, can you tell me everything that happened while I was gone? Not just today. The whole time." She looked down at her cone. Then slowly, piece by piece, it all poured out. The first day had been okay. Quiet. They made her eat separately from Ava because she spilled too much. Margaret scolded her for laughing too loudly. She was sent to the guest room to read in silence, while Ava got to watch cartoons in the living room. "I could hear the movie from the next room," Chloe said. It sounded really funny. On the second day, they took Ava to see a movie. Chloe was told she couldn't come. "She needs to learn not to be so needy," Margaret had said. Lunch was sandwiches for Chloe. Chicken nuggets for Ava. When Chloe asked for the same, Margaret snapped. "Those are special. You get what you get." Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "Grandma told me I should be grateful. Because if you and Daddy hadn't taken me in, no one would have wanted me." I stared at her, stunned. "And how did that make you feel?" Chloe shrugged. "I guess I'm lucky, right?" No. No, she wasn't lucky. We were. We were lucky to have her. I leaned across the table, took both her hands in mine. "Chloe, listen to me. You don't have to earn your place in this family. You belong. Always." Her lower lip quivered. Are they going to be mad when they get back? I shook my head. No, sweetheart. But I am. And I'm not going to yell. I'm going to do something better. I'm going to make sure this never, ever happens again. That night, after Chloe had gone to bed cuddled up with Mr. Bunn, I sat in the hallway and waited. At 5:41 p.m., headlights pulled into the driveway. Doors opened. Laughter. And I stood up. Ready. Because no one was going to walk back into this house and pretend nothing happened. The door opened with a burst of laughter. Margaret stepped in first, holding a bag from Disneyland. Behind her came Hank, lifting a sleepy Ava off his shoulders. They didn't even look around. Not until I cleared my throat. Margaret jumped, clutching her chest. Good heavens, Natalie, you scared me. Hank blinked, surprised. You're home early. Where's Chloe? I took a deep breath. Standing tall. She's upstairs. Resting. After spending 4 hours on her knees scrubbing the kitchen floor, alone. Margaret's face twitched. Oh, don't be dramatic. She made a mess. She needed to learn responsibility. Responsibility? I repeated slowly. You abandoned an 8-year-old, my daughter. To scrub your floor like a servant. While you spoiled Ava at Disneyland? Hank stepped forward, setting the bag down. She had a tantrum, he said defensively. She needed time to calm down. No, I said sharply. She spilled juice. She apologized. She told me everything. Margaret sniffed. Well, she tends to twist the truth. Not like Ava. Ava is so well-mannered. The casual cruelty of that statement made my blood boil. But I kept my voice steady. Do you realize what you've done? This isn't just favoritism anymore. This is neglect. This is emotional abuse. And it ends now. Before they could reply, my phone rang. Derek. I put him on speaker. Hey, he said. I just landed. What happened? Margaret's voice suddenly shifted. Derek, thank goodness. Natalie's overreacting. We were just trying to teach Chloe a few things. She's been difficult. You left her alone? Derek's voice was low. Controlled. She needed to learn her lesson, Hank cut in. And we wanted to give Ava a special day. Silence. Then Derek spoke. I don't care what your intentions were. You abandoned my daughter. You made her feel like she wasn't part of this family. You told her she's not real. Don't be hysterical, Margaret snapped. Blood is blood. You can't expect us to feel the same. That's enough. Derek's voice had never sounded so sharp. She is my daughter. And if you can't treat her that way, you don't deserve to be part of our lives. I stepped in, my voice calm but final. You're going to pack your things. You're going to leave, tonight. You will no longer have unsupervised access to Chloe. Ever. Margaret scoffed, turning to Hank. Say something. Hank looked tired. We made a mistake. He muttered. But cutting us off? That's extreme. No, I said. What's extreme is telling a little girl she's unwanted, while you parade another child as your golden one. Just then, Ava tugged Margaret's sleeve. Is Chloe okay? She whispered. The room went still. Even she knew. Margaret looked away. Hank sighed. And they packed. As they walked to the door, Margaret turned back. You know, Derek could have done better. I didn't flinch. And Chloe could have had better grandparents. But here we are. The door closed behind them. For the first time in days, I exhaled. That night, after the door slammed shut behind them, I stood in the hallway for a long moment, silent. Chloe peeked out from her room, holding Mr. Bun tightly. "Did Grandma and Grandpa leave because of me?" she asked softly. I walked over and knelt beside her. "No, sweetheart. They left because of their own choices. None of this was your fault." She nodded slowly. But I saw it in her eyes. The doubt. The damage. Derek came home a few hours later. He hugged her for so long she finally giggled and said, "Daddy, I can't breathe." The next morning, we had a family talk, age-appropriate, but honest. "Sometimes, even grown-ups make bad decisions," Derek said. His hand wrapped gently around Chloe's. "And when those decisions hurt people," I added, "there have to be consequences." "Like timeout?" Chloe asked. "Yes," I smiled. "But longer. And only until we know it's safe again." We started family therapy the following week. Dr. Harris, our therapist, specialized in adoptive family trauma. She was warm, calm, and direct. Exactly what we needed. In one session, Dr. Harris asked, "Chloe, how did it make you feel when Grandma said you weren't really family?" Chloe squeezed Mr. Bun tighter. "Sad. And kind of scared. Like maybe Daddy would stop loving me too someday." Derek's eyes welled with tears. "Never," he said, his voice cracking. "Never in a million years." Over the next few months, we worked hard. We rebuilt routines. We talked about feelings. We created new family traditions that made Chloe feel seen. We also set strict boundaries with Hank and Margaret. They asked for contact. We said, "Only supervised. Only when Chloe is ready." They pushed back. We stood firm. But something surprising happened. They began to change. Slowly. At one supervised lunch, Margaret looked Chloe in the eye, something she rarely did, and said, "I'm sorry. I should never have made you feel like you didn't belong." Chloe blinked. Then paused. "It's okay," she whispered, like it was automatic, rehearsed. Hank leaned forward, his voice softer than I'd ever heard. "No, sweetheart. It's not okay. And we're sorry. Truly. We can't undo what we did. But we're here, and we'll keep trying to be better." It wasn't perfect. But it was a start. What mattered most was what Chloe said to me in the car afterward. "Mom, it wasn't because I'm not a real Patterson, was it? It was because they were wrong." I smiled, tears stinging my eyes. "That's exactly right." She looked out the window thoughtfully. "I'm a Carter and a Patterson. And I'm enough." 6 months later, we celebrated her 9th birthday. With friends. With laughter. With a cake that said, "You are loved. Exactly as you are." And she was. She is. If you've ever been made to feel like an outsider in your own family, or watched someone you love be treated as less than, I hope this story reminds you. Blood doesn't make family, love does. Setting boundaries isn't betrayal. It's protection. And protecting a child's heart is always worth it. If this story moved you, hit the like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And tell us in the comments, when was the moment you chose love over tradition? Because sometimes, doing the right thing means rewriting what family truly means.